Hi, my name is Kasey Crawford. I'm the composer for Streetlight Dancers in the composition portion of the Artemis Women in Action Film Festival.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gurfield. I'm the director and producer of Boy Eats Girl, and I'm not a musician, but our film has a score in competition and a song in competition.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Floyd for Floyd Music. I am a singer-songwriter, and I wrote a song called What Do You Say? And I have submitted it for the song selection for this festival.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ganna Sorbat. I'm singer, songwriter, and composer from Los Angeles. And my composition is symphony poem Between Earth and Sky. I applied for a category of music composition.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for being here and very much for the amazing music and product that is here. We're really thrilled. Okay, so let's start. Kasey, let's start with the basics of what inspired this particular piece of music.
So for me, what inspired it was traditionally, lately I've had the opportunity to compose for a few projects through UCF, through meeting some film students of mine. And I've also, while doing this, been learning a little bit about different genres of music in different forms, just mostly from listening and watching videos. And I've been getting into different genres outside of cinematic, like film. And so part of me wanted to branch out and experiment with something less simplistic than what I had been creating for these projects. So I worked on kind of taking the different genres of music that I've been listening to and creating a type of mini soundtrack type of song through that. And so that's where I started with that. And then from that, I've created a few more since then that are in that same genre. But for me, mostly what inspired it was trying to branch out from what I had been doing in the past.
Got it. I found, from me at least, that I felt like you were still telling a story with that music. Do you?
Good. Okay, yay.
Okay, excellent. So that was one of your goals, to try to have it unfold as a story.
Yes, yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. And that was actually the first, I made this composition like a year and a half ago, and it's the only one I've had transcribed, and a friend of mine did that for me. And since then, I've really gotten into that whole, like I've composed for a few, like a play and a documentary here and there, but with these, I kind of am trying to make very shortened, I guess, like soundtracks, if that makes any sense.
It does. It does. Now, in the piece I saw, you played this yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, please, not sir. Anything but sir.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So how long have you been playing just keyboards, or do you play other instruments as well?
Just piano. I've been playing for like 6 or 7 years. I think I started in early high school. And so,
well,
yeah, I learned.
You say just, but you play brilliantly.
Thank you. I played by ear, but I spend a lot of time like listening to, I guess, just different types of music, and then I learn. Like I want to be like a gig pianist, like in entertainment, like in hotels and restaurants and stuff. I have been doing that for the past year, but I learned from listening to songs and then like finding out where those chords are, and then I do that. And then I take that and when I make these compositions, I kind of use whatever those chords are in those.
No, that makes sense. That's a smart way to do it. I had a mix of self-taught and some training in music composition. And I find the best compliment, they say, is imitation, where you will pull from some of the greats and just make it your own. So no, that's brilliant. Very, very good. Thank you so much. All right,
Thanks.
Sarah. The reason why we invited Sarah for this Q&A is because she directed a short that 2 of the pieces of music from the short were officially selected. And what we thought would be great perspective is someone who uses music to help tell their story, And again, a lot of musicians, you're going to be working with directors and producers. So I thought it'd be a nice perspective to have. So Sarah, I don't know the composers specifically that you used, but what was your relationship and how did you get them to get you that great music?
Sure. So our score was composed by Christy Carroll Marshall, who is a fantastic composer and has trained under people like John Williams and is fabulous and very cinematic. Our film, like the end titles, is a song called "Make It Better," composed by Deborah Hurwitz and Baraka May, and then we do have a fourth female songwriter. It's a licensed song, so I don't want to give any spoilers, but she's fabulously talented as well. And for me, the Boy Eats Girl is a zombie rom-com, and so we're sending up a couple of different genres, and it was really important to me that the score sort of sounded like those genres. You kind of knew where you were in the world, and then found a way to spin it on its head. And when we did our spotting sessions and when we went through and sort of talked through everything, Christy just had just an amazing sense of what was going to work and what instrumentations were going to work and when to kind of pull back a little bit. So that was really exciting. And for the song, the title credit song, the temp track that my editor and I put in was, oh my God, what's it called? Happy Together by the Turtles. Yes. And so I always think of it as the Golden Graham song. But so that was like our temp track. And then when Deborah and I were initially talking about her creating a song and creating with Baraka a song, we went through, and you'll notice the instrumentation is very similar, and the drum fill, that big famous drum fill, happens exactly when we needed it to happen. So it's sort of setting up that song, and the lyrics, if you actually listen to them, really are pretty hilarious in terms of the zombie spoof. So that was all very much a part of it.
Well, I'm a film nerd, and also I used to score and do other things. So kind of a smattering of ignorance of many things. And the one thing that I was very aware of is that you do a lot of good homages. The Lady and the Tramp and a couple others that are very funny. But I also felt like I was hearing a little Bernard Herrmann in there. I don't remember who scored, I feel bad, Night of the Living Dead, but I felt those two, they were doing, I guess I'm saying that I felt you were also doing a musical homage. Is that true, or is that all in my imagination?
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you got that. A lot of people get the visual send-ups because, some of the shots are intentionally very iconic send-ups. But yeah, we were watching a lot of the zombie movies and a lot of rom-coms and trying to sort of have a weird baby with those two.
Okay, fabulous work. And we're going to talk more about how the relationship between a writer and or a composer and a director works. But thank you very much for your time on that. That's great. So Floyd, your turn of what inspired you about the song, and go ahead.
Yeah, so this was my first song off one of my first EPs that I did after being on kind of a musical hiatus for a few years. And so I had a lot of material, things that I had written down in journals and stuff that I was working on here and there. And this song really came together when I was thinking about the concept of life really is ultimately about what you make it, right? Like that at the end of the day, no matter what your circumstances are, you can make a choice to choose to feel better. And so the song, the hook of the song is "It's a Beautiful Day." And so the idea I had for that is just when you get up in the morning, maybe you're not feeling good and life's not going well and you've got all these issues in your mind, and you kind of open the curtains and it's like this gorgeous California day and you go, yeah, but it's a beautiful day. Can't we make a choice to feel better and to choose different thinking, choose a different thought? and go on with our lives and up level everything and be more positive. So that was really kind of the idea of the song. Of course, I'm a songwriter, and so I had my own personal stuff going on in the background of that, which led to these thoughts of thinking, I think I can make a choice here to feel better, and it can be a beautiful day in the midst of whatever's going on, even if you're not enjoying your current circumstances. So that was how the song came together. Yeah,
it was great. And again, with my smattering of ignorance, the classic song "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" from Oklahoma. When you were doing yours, I thought actually I liked your approach better. It's like you're in a bad mood and you choose to
that's right.
say what a beautiful morning. And I thought that was great that you were giving the listener, you can choose to be happy and appreciative,
Yes.
I thought it was a fabulous message.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And then in terms of recording it, go ahead.
So I play guitar, and I also play piano. So I play both, and of course I'm also a singer. So I wrote the song all on guitar, and then called up this fabulous producer named Ed Clare, who's amazing. He's done a lot of work with lots of different artists, and it was him and a female producer, which you don't see a lot actually in music. A lot of you guys probably all know this. A lot of producers happen to be male, and I think we still have we have a lot of work to do in that area. But her name is Georgia in Ireland, and so the two of them are a production team. So I went in, did pre-pro, played the song, they loved it, and so the song just came together under kind of their vision, right? Because songs sound a lot different in your bedroom on your acoustic guitar than they do actually when they go through the process of production. But from there, we had studio musicians come in and go ahead and play. I chose not to play on it just because I think I'm a good enough guitar player, but for this I wanted somebody who was like an expert. So we got a great guy that came in and did it, and that's how it came together.
Fabulous. And it's a great song, and the production is wonderful. And again, as you touched on, the whole purpose of our festival is to try to raise the awareness of these incredible talents that happen to be female that just aren't getting as much work as they could use.
That's right. Deserve. Yeah.
And it's a pool that is so underused. Yes. And it's not fair, but it's also just stupid. There's such incredible talent, So
that's right.
So thank you for bringing that up. So Ganna,
absolutely.
Sorry, Ganna, your turn.
Hi. Thank you so much for invitation, by the way, for the participate in this wonderful meeting. And it's a pleasure to know you all, super talented. I can't wait to hear works of each one of you. Regarding my composition, I would like to mention that I'm originally from Eastern Europe. And at that time when I was writing the music, it happened like a civil war, so people were fighting, and I actually was out of my country for work, like a contract. And when I came back, I have seen that it just totally broke my heart back then in 2014. So I wrote the music piece, which is called Between Earth and Sky. Basically, it's describing the war which is on our planet. It's always fighting. People are always human. We are human beings. We always have needs. We are, have our emotions, and it happens for us. Like people are fighting always, and there is an ultimate reality which is beauty and love and happiness, which is basically heaven. And I create this composition, and then I decided to merge it with my other symphony poem, which I wrote before. So it became a multiple piece of music. Mm-hmm. And all of it is orchestral. I wrote it in first originally as with a pen on the score, as an old back in the days, and then I did it in Cubase in a box. So basically it starts with piano, and then it goes to the orchestral instruments like violins and harp, and the next piece, which is following, so it's complex composition. So the next piece is more like orchestral theme of the meat, I would say, the meat of the entire composition.
Got it. Now, if I'm hearing you correctly, the piece was done electronically, because the sound is amazing. I mean, this is not an actual orchestra?
No, only one instrument that I would like to mention was recorded live by Armen Konstantin. He's originally from Ukraine, and he plays duduk. It's Armenian instrument.
Ah.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting of itself, but I have to tell you, I feel like I have a pretty good ear, and I would not have guessed that was not a full orchestra. That was beautifully done. Really, really well done. And the music is very powerful. So you basically already answered my second question, was the inspiration of it. Have you been getting good response because you're giving a full recording to people as opposed to just like a demo, right? So are people responding well to it?
Yes. A lot of people said to me that they felt it so deeply in their heart. So especially when it's related to my homeland situation, when it's extreme, people are under war, you're basically like looking for, it's a survival mode.
Yes.
So,
well, I'll tell you, I did not know the background, but I did feel that you were capturing the angst and pain, and then it merges into a more hopeful tone. But again, another where I felt there was a great story. And again, it could just be that I put everything into a story, but I really thought you captured, again, almost hopelessness moving into hopeful, just magnificently. Very well done.
Thank you so much. It's almost like the light in darkness, right?
Yeah.
That's what we are looking for in our lives.
Yeah. And to be able to capture that musically is very powerful. So very good. So Floyd, forgive me, I did counterclockwise. Okay, we're gonna go back to Kasey. Pardon me, Kasey. If you touch on you've already done a little bit, but touch on other projects you're working on, and then, if you can, encapsulate your creative process through the, is something that you see, you hear, what inspires composition? This is for people who don't, write or understand music. So go for it, please.
Okay, so some recent projects I've done. Well, since Streetlight Dancers, there's like that area of like minute and 30-second, just mini soundtracks. I don't know why I call them that, but that.
No,
but those I've made. There's two that I've made that I'm like, I think I've gotten better with each one. I think I've learned a lot, and I've like gotten. I think it. One of them's called Singing Trees, and the other one is called It's a Game. And those, I think I've been listening to more jazz recently, and I think you kind of hear some of that in those a little bit. I listen to a lot of jazz, and I also listen to a lot of Danny Elfman and John Powell, and I'm really inspired by them. Especially Danny Elfman, just because like he also didn't have like a traditional like training in Hans Zimmer, and and then aside from that, I've just scored, which is very different, but I just scored my friend's documentary for her friend Brittany Beadle, who she was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer when she was 18. Oh. And so my friend just finished this documentary about her incredible life. And so I just scored that, but it's a very drastically different approach to everything. So right now I'm kind of like trying to figure out which I like more. Trying to figure out. I've scored for some plays, like little plays just around Orlando. But I'm trying to figure out which approach I really like more.
Right. Well, do you have to pick? I mean, it sounds like you have the ability to do maybe all of it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like I'm learning with everything.
So how do you think the music comes to you? or does it, or what do you have to reach out, or does it come to you? What do you think?
I don't really, I usually like kind of figure out stories after I have made, when it comes to the minute and 30-second ones, I feel like I've created the story afterwards. And while I'm making them, I feel like I'm thinking about, I don't know what I'm thinking about. I actually haven't really paid attention. But I kind of like, I don't know, like when, I guess, kind of like meditating. I guess you guys know, if you're musicians, like when you like play a guitar or something for a while, it just like feels like you can have like 4 hours go by. Like I spend like in high school, I spent 3 hours a day just playing, and like time would go by. My parents would be super annoyed, but like it kind of just passes. But I think I'm subconsciously inspired by a lot of fairy tales, because I feel like Danny Elfman and like John Fowle. I don't know. I feel like I just think of those names a lot.
No, that makes sense. And again, the creative process to me is you need experience, you need knowledge, you need all those things, but then all that's got to get out of the way for the muse or whatever you want to call and it just drops in your head, and you can take credit for it, but it's like it came right. You're a sponge, right? And then expressing it is the challenge, and getting it on paper. And then when you hear it performed, and this is my next touch, is that writers will write this brilliant script and they think it's genius, and then they hear actors say it. It's like, wait, that doesn't sound like what was in my head. Do you find when, since you kind of are composing as you play, so it may not have that same impact, but do you find it's not quite what was in your head as it comes out on your fingers?
Sometimes I feel like I don't play it the same way ever twice. Like I feel like sometimes when I play, if I've just recently made it like a week ago, the next week it'll have an entirely different rhythm, because I've been listening to like, I don't know, some hip hop or something, and then that rhythm is in my head, so I'll switch up rhythms. So yeah, sometimes it changes from what I've like previously imagined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with Sarah, it's going to be slightly different. I was just curious how your relationship with the composers or the writers, the songwriters. I'm assuming you've had more than one relationship. How do you find communicating with them?
I'm a total music slut. For the most part, for the films that I've directed or that I've been a producer on, as opposed to like an episodic or a TV thing, which is a totally different situation with music. For me, the score is almost always subtext. That's almost inevitably what I want it to be. And so finding people who speak the language of emotion and the language of story is the sort of critical piece. And then you can get into, okay, this moment is really important. Do we want to highlight that with instrumentally? Do we want to highlight that with a hit of some kind? Do we want to drop out entirely? Like, what's the way to do that? But getting on the same page with someone, or rather helping that person understand from a more holistic vision perspective what that moment needs to be, is really important. So someone who is I think tuned in psychologically, maybe, and I do a lot of comedy, so someone who has a comedic sensibility, a sense of what that rhythm is. I mean, comedy, I feel very strongly, has rhythm just like music does. I'm fascinated, Kasey, by your comment that you would go back to something and it would be totally different a week later in terms of rhythm, even, because I don't know, that's just such an interesting, as a director, I just didn't think about it like that. But yeah, of course, because, an actor is not going to give you the same performance in every single take necessarily. So that makes total sense. And it I feel like really varies. I find that I'm one of these people where I know it's not quite right. I know it's not quite right. I know it's, oh wait, but now it's right. And now we can get into the more granular decision-making about what needs to happen.
Yeah, they're kind of not quite on the page yet, and then all of a sudden they are, and then it's like with anything, it works or it doesn't, and then once it does work, you can fine tune it. Now,
and
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, ideally you want to bring your composer, especially for like a short film, you want to bring the composer on as early in the process as possible. That's not always feasible. But yeah, to have that person even be able to start writing while you're cutting, while you're shooting, while you're talking about the script. I don't know, pre-production. I've never had the luxury of having someone
Right.
on board, I don't think, for composing in pre-production, but just to make sure you're on the same page.
Right. Well, I've worked with a lot of musicians, and some are not what I would call visual. They're so much into the music itself. What a good scorer needs to be able to see and then translate that into musical language. Is that a simplistic way of saying what a scorer does?
No, I mean, not from my perspective. I think that's a piece of it, but I think it's not only the visual, right? Because it's also the subtext. Like sometimes the music is telling not an entirely different story, but like a complementary story or a symbiotic story. I was talking to someone the other day about Promising Young Woman, which I don't know if you've all had a chance to see that yet.
Yeah.
But the visuals of that are very sort of colorful and bubblegummy in a really ironic way, I think. But the score of that, parts of that score gave me such anxiety, like in the best way. I think it was so effective like that. And the juxtaposition of those two things really popped for me. Like you don't watch the visual, if you put it on mute, you don't watch it and think, oh, this is going to make me like tense. But it absolutely does. And that's why I think it's so effective.
No, and I agree with that. A good example of good acting mixed with good scoring is where you have two people who love each other madly but can't express it for some reason. And the music helps give you that melancholy feel while they're doing that. So I totally understand. You have to capture that whole mix.
Yeah. So I think it's visual, emotional, psychological, all of those things.
So, and the more you can encompass all of that, the better you can work with the composer and vice versa. Very
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Floyd, now you're in clockwise order. I can talk to you.
Okay.
So it's the same thing of what other things you're doing and then how you approach your writing.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm just starting my second EP. So I just finished, I just finished a round of songs. I'm doing 5, that's extended play. So 5 songs. I sat down, I brought about, I think 8 or 9. We did a Zoom session with my producers, same group I used last time, same team, because why change? They're amazing. And so we did Zoom and we like went through all the songs. I literally sat here with my guitar and, scratched it out. And then they voted like which ones they thought were the best. And so we just finished that process. So we just started, and so they're scratching it out for me and like sending me demos and that kind of stuff. So it's a super fun process, and I'm hoping to be able to go back in the studio, all of us together. We're going to be using online studio musicians this time around because of COVID. I have heard some stuff so far, and it sounds great. A little bit of a different experience because it's different when you have all the musicians in the room. Everybody's kind of riffing off each other, and you'll say to like the guitar player, well, can you try it this way? Or I'm hearing something more like, and you'll say it and you'll be in the room. And so that camaraderie, it's really fun. It's, I actually think you get a better product, you get a different product because you got more diversity of opinions and ideas in the room. Whereas studio musicians online, it's more like, here, play it this way. You like send them the scratch, and there's not a lot of room because they're not taking like real-time direction. So I do miss that part of it. But I think we're still going to get a great product. So anyways, that's what I'm doing now, is working on EP number 2. And then as far as the process goes, I mean, I echo a lot of what you guys have already said here. I mean, I like to say I'm a terrible finisher of songs. I will sit here, something will come to mind if I'm in my room and just like playing on a guitar or piano. I'll come up with a scratch, and I'll be like, that's really cool, or something, a melody line or a lyric will come to me. And I think, Kasey, you said, like, sometimes you build the story later. I do the same thing, lyrics will come, I'll write it down, and later I'll go like, this doesn't really make any sense. Like I like these lines, but like, this doesn't really make sense. And so what happens is I kind of end up in my head. And so it's not uncommon for me literally to take years to finish a song sometimes. And I really just, who was it? might have been Tom Waits, one of the great songwriters said, sometimes you just, and I quote, you have to pull the tooth out. Like to finish the song, you just have to get in there and just get it done. And so, you know, when I've got a deadline or my producers are like, hey, what's going on with that one song? Like you sent us like a really good idea. I'll just like pull the tooth out, sit down on a Saturday afternoon or whatever it is, and I'll just get it done because I think I can be overcritical like most artists because there's just so much creativity is endless. There's so many ways you can do things.
Exactly.
So.
Very good. Thank you so much, Floyd. Awesome. So, Ganna, I'm afraid the same thing for you, what you're doing now and how you approach writing.
Yes, I kind of relate to Floyd. I was totally hear you, and same here with each song. I'm trying to complete it, but my producers will ask me, like, where is this song? We've been working on it. Are you recording your voice soon? And, you know, it's taken some time, but I'm also working on my second EP right now, and going to release it soon. But I was working in a new style, I would say. It's different. Before, I used to work more at pop jazz style, my first EP. As a singer-songwriter, I built a team. And really amazing musicians from Paris. They're like playing jazz professionally in all the venues there. So I did that project with them. And here in Los Angeles, I've decided what is the genre that I can work right now. Like here, what inspires me and moves me? It's movie soundtracks a lot. That type of music that really gives me so much inspiration, and I can listen the entire day, like scores by John Williams or Hans Zimmer or Danny Elfman and other creative like film composers. So I decided to write songs and combine with like soundtrack that I'm writing as well. So it's kind of, I would say, alternative music genre. That's what I'm working on right now. Besides my 3 projects, which I have as presentations to different venues as a performer. The one which is I already mentioned, based on my first EP, pop jazz plus cover songs, and 2 other. Still on the line to present different styles, which I do. It's like world music projects.
Cool. You said perform, instrument, singing, or both? Or?
Yeah, I play piano and I sing in 5 languages: English, Italian, Spanish, Ukrainian, Russian.
Wow. So there's an old George Gershwin song about feeling, Ivor Gershwin wrote the lyric, obviously, of feeling like as sad as a Russian play. So, you know, because most of them are very dark and whatever. And I was thinking you could take a really happy song, you know, like Good Morning or something, and then put it in Russian, and people might think it's sad. Just no, but I'm sorry. I just, you know, reminded me.
I actually sang George Gershwin. I've done a project here in Los Angeles in a church, Russian Orthodox church, and it was well received. Both of brothers, Gershwin brothers, they've been very creative and inspired me a lot too.
They're amazing. They're amazing people. Well, I want to thank you guys very, very much, not only for the incredible material that you submitted, but also for taking the time this afternoon to share with us your amazing talents and how you approach it. It was really thrilling to meet you guys, and I hope great success unto you, and hopefully the festival will help launch some of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you guys. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Margaret Brandman. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I'm pleased to be one of the official selections for the music score competition for the Artemis Film Festival with my work called Spirit Visions.
Thank you. I was just about to ask. Spirit Visions. Thank you.
For orchestra.
For orchestra. So, with the idea that people who aren't music oriented will touch on the idea that you used a full orchestra for this. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. It was inspired by the fact that I had a chance to play the Sydney Town Hall organ, and when I played it, all these wonderful orchestral sounds appeared. You know, when you pulled the stop, you got a violin, and then you got a brass, and I was inspired by that whole idea to make it into an orchestral piece.
Wow. Well, it's quite beautiful and it's haunting. What training did you need, or do you have, to create such a magnificent piece?
I've been involved in composing since I was about 14 years old, and I've composed many, many pieces for different ensembles and done arranging, performing. I'm a music educator as well. And I've gotten to the point now where I can sort of basically sit down and improvise an idea, grab the theme, and then with my composition training that I had at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music and the Sydney University with one of Australia's great composers, Peter Sculthorpe, I learned all my skills, my skills, but then I expanded on those skills by playing and performing and researching more myself. So over the years, many compositions and many works for orchestra now, and small ensembles, and I play, and I have a variety of things. Every day is different in the music. Yeah, so
that makes
I can't say boring.
Have you, we're the Artemis Women in Action Film Festival, so I should ask, have you ever had the opportunity to do film scores?
No, I actually haven't done a whole film score, but a lot of my music, people will listen to it and say straight away, oh, that could be a movie theme. I think particularly this one, because it's such a big, expansive theme, and you can probably see landscapes and things when you're listening to the music. Absolutely. And the previous award that I received from Artemis 2 years ago was Firestorm Symphony,
that's right,
which was all about the bushfires in Australia, and it really tells a story as well. Yeah. So a lot of my music will have a storyline implied in the music, though you don't need the storyline to understand it, you know. So.
Yes, I think a tremendous power comes when the audience is able to visualize what your music is saying, if you will, and you captured that beautifully in both pieces, you know. So the one question that I've been asking script writers, so I might as well ask you, is that some people say, gee, you know, I want to write a song. I find that true composers, you have to write. You know, it's just right. Have you experienced that?
That's right. It's a theme that comes in the middle of the night, and you wake up and you think, I've got to write that down. Or I just asked to write an Argentinian waltz the other day, so I'm like, okay, I'll just write one. But I just sat down and basically improvised it and got the idea. But then you get the raw idea, but you really got to work hard to shape it. Yeah. You can't just go raw. So you get the inspiration, but then what is it? 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Exactly. Yeah. In writing terms, it's, you know, writing is rewriting. You know, that just having the idea is wonderful, but that's the beginning. As you say, the hard work is chiseling.
Yes, and I really like to do to get a format. So that it has a form and it feels like it's taking you on a journey, and that you know wandered off there, but you're coming home again safely, and it's not endless new, which you can't grab onto. You know, right. My young son, when he was like 4, said to me, "Mum, I wish the universe didn't had an ending to it." You know, because he couldn't conceive of endlessness. So, which is pretty, you know, remarkable for a 4-year-old son. But it's the same thing with music. I feel if you can incorporate the themes and you can build it, and you come back to something and you go, it's familiar, and then you go something new, and then you come to familiar, which is what people do in writing symphonies anyway, or general. But I think a lot of music these days, people just sort of write and they just go on and on and on and on, and you go, oh, well, how can I feel settled with it? So I'd like people to feel settled with my music and excited, inspired, and also particularly with Spirit Vision, sort of uplifted in mood and spirit. That which is what I get, particularly when I get to the end of it, and that final 16 bars, up and up and up we go.
I'm rising out of my seat in that part. You did a great job with that, and you tell there's a word that I use to some music, whether it's modern or classical, and it's interminable. It just it goes on, as you say, and it's like just get somewhere. Where with your music, I felt almost immediately, it's like, for lack of a better analogy, river floating, where you feel the movement going, and then, we turn here, and we turn there, and we go up all the way, and a little down. And so much music doesn't really capture that. And I was really impressed with how you were able to unfold it.
The other thing, of course, is I have a little passion for Latin American music. I don't know. I think I found out in my DNA I've got 35% Italian, and I've got this thing for Spanish. But I went to Cuba to record my Spanish flavored Warm Winds in Havana, and it's very jazzy. So people say, "Oh, you're a classical composer," but then if you flip the page or go to my next one, you go, "Oh, here we are. We're dancing. We're moving." So I've got that Latin American feel through that piece as well. So sometimes you feel like I'm visiting Cuba, or I'm in Mexico, or maybe now I'm back in Europe and I'm in the Ukraine somewhere. So I've got different flavors and textures through. So it really is like a world journey. If I suppose the analogy would be, if you're on the satellite and you're going around the world, you would go, "Oh, I'm seeing this country or that country or that country." So the world from above. But
and you're expressing your own experiences through music, and again, you have an instinctive storytelling, so that you capture the environment. You remind me a bit of how they try to pigeonhole George Gershwin. He's just a ragtime songwriter, or no, now he's a composer, and he does the Cuban overture, and then he does the second reps, and he just wouldn't be boxed in. And your music, from 2 years ago and now, and other stuff that I've heard, it's amazing. A young kid once turned to me and said, "You have varieteousness." So, but just all over, and yet the theme of storytelling runs through beautifully.
So the other storytelling one I have done is the Cosmic Wheel of the Zodiac, with one song for every sign of the Zodiac, with beautiful storylines in that. But my lyricist wrote the lyrics, but then I've done the music to capture that as well. So there's many different styles of things I've done. I must say also, too, I like to play Latin American music myself. I play in bands and I accompany. And someone said to me, "I've got a very good feel for bossa nova." So that comes through in my writing a lot. And I've just actually completed a Latin American suite that's going to be played this afternoon by a small ensemble in Sydney. So
that's awesome. You do say play. Is it keyboard or piano? Or?
Yeah, piano. I'm a pianist.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But I've played clarinet and other instruments on the way through, the piano mainly, which is the orchestral instrument to write on. I sit down and I write the original ideas on piano and manuscript, or even I just improvise it and then listen to it and write it out after that. So,
wow.
So
do you do your arrangements, because you're voicing?
Yes.
For a lot of piano players, and I felt this about Gershwin now that we're saying it, he was kind of percussive in a lot of his winds and strings, where I find you can use that, but I find that you're very good at using their voices. You're not playing piano through them. Am I?
Well, with the music program called Sibelius these days, you can write out what you want to hear for brass and for so that really helps. And they've got a new plug-in called Note Performer, where the instruments sound absolutely true to life.
Wow.
So I can take it from the piano and put it in my Sibelius program, and then I can pretty much hear back what I want to hear. So it's a marvelous tool, actually, and it's helped with the orchestration in the later years to be able to do that.
Wow.
So
I gave up composing too long ago. I should go back to it if it's I have those kind of technologies.
Yeah. Well, when I started in my string orchestra piece, Undulations, was written some years ago. I don't even think the computer was invented. So it was all the hand done. But through the training that I'd had, the composition course, I knew how to write for strings and things. So before all these computer whiz-bang programs came along, you did write it out on your manuscript and, hard labour writing it out. And I think as a composer also, I like to work with instrumentalists. So I will get them to try things out and make sure that they actually really work.
Right.
Because I'm not a string player. And I'll go, well, is this, impossible, or is it possible to do?
Right.
But generally I find when I'm writing, as long as I write something that's melodic and that I think I could probably sing, any instrument can play it.
Got it. Well, and what you just suggested is like writers will have actors say the lines out loud, because in your head it sounds great, and then someone says it, it's like, wait a minute, and do you have that impact as well, where they start playing it, it's not quite what you had, or?
Yeah. And so thanks to many people that I've worked with over the years, and I've said, can we try this, can we try that, and we workshop the pieces, and just made sure it all worked before you actually present it to an orchestra to play, so it's going to work. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's the joy of working with the music and working with other musicians,
Yeah.
So
the growing of that. Yeah. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for your submission, an amazing piece of music, and thank you for taking the time now to share with us some of the concepts and processes of doing that.
It's my pleasure.
So thank you so much.
Hi there, I'm Fay Gauthier. My song is Fade, F-A-D-E, and it's up for Best Song / Theme Song.
Thank you. Erin?
Okay. Hi, I'm Erin Beute, and my song is called Alleliua, and I'm also up for Best Theme Song.
Thank you. Toni?
Hi, everyone. My name is Toni Short. I have 2 songs in the Best Song Theme Song category. The first one is called Fear, and the second one is Body Communion.
Thank you. And just for specifics, all of them are official selections now. And then there will be an award ceremony.
Yay.
Yeah, look at us.
This is going to be a wild ride,
I was talking over you accidentally, Zac. What was that last piece you said again after official selection?
And that all of the official selections are going to be, or as many as we can get, of performances will be put into what we call a block. We have film blocks of shorts and features. We're also going to have a music block where people can watch and listen to your amazing music.
Yay!
So cool.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you for doing that. That's so cool.
Of course.
Great.
Okay, so we'll start with Fay about Fade.
Right.
So let's start with talking about the song a little bit and how it came about.
Sure. Well, it was kind of, I thought I was writing 2 separate songs at first. When I got the through line, which was the I'll be the one who does not shut up, which is spoken throughout the song, I thought I was going to be writing a song kind of more in that style. And then I figured out that I'm actually writing one song, and that was just going to be the through line through the song. I was inspired just by my own feeling of frustration, that it seemed like everywhere I went, people were telling other people that they had no right to utter their opinion about things. If they were a sports person, they weren't allowed to say anything political, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And as women in particular, sometimes it's insinuated that we should stay in our lane. And so that's kind of where it came from. And then this, like anything else, it just started in that spirit and then just kind of came out and flowed into the creation that it ended up being.
All right, it is awesome. So,
Okay.
for non-music people especially, the idea that you write something, and then there's what's called the arrangement, which can go 100 different ways. You can have classical orchestra play it, or rock music, or whatever. So, how did the arrangement come about, and the recording?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So I approached my producer, Teddy Jacobs, and I said, Teddy, I have an idea for a song, and it's a little different than I've done before, because Teddy and I have worked in the past together. And I told him that I wanted it to be a little bit more electro, a little bit more aggressive, I guess, than what I've done before, because the through line is sort of aggressive. I'll be the one who does not shut up. And I wanted the arrangement to work along that line. So we sat together, and he's like, yes, I'm thrilled he wanted to work on this. So we sat together and kind of bounced ideas off of each other with like the electronics, the beats, and just to get the general layout until we agreed on what that was. And then that's when he suggested that we bring in Toshi Yanagi, who's just an incredible guitar player and can do acoustic, but he can also do a mean electric guitar, because what he comes up with is always magical. So really, he's the live instrument. Everything else that we did was in the studio, electronic instruments. So Toshi really brought it.
Nice. It's a fabulous effect and very powerful. The reason why I brought that up is, you guys would know this, but for audience, Man in the Mirror was this slow, thoughtful ballad. And then Michael Jackson got hold of it, and, it's a totally different piece. And so I think a lot of people think, who don't compose, that pretty much the way you wrote it is what they hear, and it can be so remarkably different, So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Erin, same to you if possible.
Yeah, okay. So Alleliua is the climax song from the proof of concept short film Bird's Eye, which I also wrote and produced 3 years ago. And the song is meant to reflect the story, which is a tough as nails music composer learns to see music in a new light as a teacher at an at-risk urban academy, and she does it completely blind. She suffers this massive retinal hemorrhage as a diabetic, and so it's in that darkness and that grief that this music suddenly emerges in her head in the most unlikely place ever. And so I knew that I needed this music to say everything that the story represented. And so finally using that music degree, yay. So I actually took a choral anthem that I'd written several years ago for a completely different project. And I took about maybe 20% of that and rewrote it and rearranged it as an a cappella choral, very classical sounding, mashed up with hip hop. And then we had a triple mashup with Carl Orff's Carmina Burana, or Fortuna from Carmina Burana. Yeah. And so we kind of have these 3 layers mashing up on top of themselves, and it kind of reflects the relationship with the students in this film, where they have to first meet and butt heads, and then that fighting ceasefires and then merges and then blends into this mashup. So that's the idea. That's the story behind it. Probably way more than you wanted to know.
No, not at all. This is part of the interest of it. Yeah. Now, actually, you did say something that is kind of tells on what I just said, is that you wrote it as a cappella, and it was presented that way. Now, have you heard it in other versions, or is that the only version you have right now?
It's not been recorded as the anthem that it was, but it has been sung and performed, and it's interesting how you can take that soul of a piece and take it out and place it, just like you said about the Michael Jackson song, and make it something entirely different and continue to live, but its heart beats in a different way.
Exactly.
And it fit the chord changes that I needed it to fit with everything else that it was doing, and I'm like, wow. Plus, I own the rights already.
Yeah.
So, yay!
Very cool. And I will say that the song absolutely does help the climax of the short. So it was a fabulous tie-in. You did an excellent job on that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Toni, your turn. You got 2 to talk about.
Yes. Well, actually, mine all tie in, and I would kind of wind it even back a little bit further. So,
I'm from Australia. I went to London when I was early 20s. I lived there, and I've done events around the world for 15, 20 years in London, DC, and New York. And then I left and started my own business. And then 2018, I basically bankrupted myself emotionally, financially, everythingly, over a kind of a cross between a narcissist romance scam and no self-worth and no boundaries and no intuition and, all those things that one does at a kind of Saturn return, depending on what language you want to speak. Anyway, long story short, I was going to go to Haiti to volunteer for this kids camp to kind of heal and get myself together because I kind of lost it a little bit. And that camp canceled 24 hours before. It was like dancing and singing and meditation and things. So I was kind of sitting on my apartment floor just being like, WTF, like, how did I get here? And something told me to put some paper on the wall, and I kind of made this calendar for myself, and I looked for the signs or something, and it's so interesting, the synchronicities of what you were just saying about O Fortuna. That's one of the songs that I've known my whole life. It's turned up in places in ways that I'm like, okay, something's happening here. It's really amazing. And even Zac, your note about Madonna's, I think, the queen of like making music with different composition and taking like a fast song and making it classical or with a Latin beat. And I think that's maybe an innovation that women are bringing in terms of always doing something different, but, using tradition of old things or something. Anyway, so I started, someone told me to write about what I was going through. So I started writing a lot of poems, and, I was pretty deep in some holes. And then I started to go to an improv class, and then I learned about song structure. And then I went to a hip hop something. And then there was a sign on the wall that said, like, a singing teacher, she does energy, it sort of talks about energy. So I went, and she said, what do you want to sing? And I was like, well, I have all these poems and songs. So I blocked like 1,000 diaries on her desk. And so we just kind of started making music. And I was a complete beginner. I'd never done any of these things before. So we started making all these songs. One of those things I did on the camp for myself was beat making over this sort of experience I did for myself. So that guy was a producer. So I said, could you record my songs? Then I got in an Uber one night and met another producer, which I then went and actually made these two songs, who's Lionel, that's in the photo and in one of Body Communion. And so it became this project of finding my voice. I didn't speak up for myself in those 3 years I was in that situation. And, I've gone down the rabbit hole of sort of looking how to find myself and to work out who I am. And I feel like I birthed myself as an artist, or rebirth that I always was, but I went away from it for the corporate world, or, all of the stories and more and less, and it's all beautiful. And I'm very grateful because it brought me to music. And so my process, I basically go into the studio with no lyrics. Usually I have the diaries, we make music, people hear noises, sounds. I'm very into the signs and synchronicities, and we just make it up as we go along. And we birthed these two babies, and I love them. And I'm very grateful for music and what it's done for my life. So thank you for being here.
That's great.
That's a very cool
short story.
Short story.
Yeah.
All right. So now, Fay, the next, and feel free if you guys want to bounce off each other, the idea of, first of all, what you're doing now, but then the creative process. How do you, do songs come to you? Do you go to them? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I'll answer the second question first. For me, it usually starts with some sort of an idea that can hit me anywhere. Like, I'll be driving in my car, which, granted, since the pandemic hit, I haven't been doing a lot of, but something will strike me and I'll get a melody in my head. It usually starts with a melody with me. And then if it sticks with me, then I know it's something that's talking to me. So the song is calling me, and I won't forget it. It just sticks. And then I'll go home and I'll sit on the keyboard, which is my instrument, and start just exploring and letting it find its way to me. And then often lyrics will start to develop at the same time that I'm playing around with the melody. It doesn't seem to work for me that if I get an idea about a poem or some kind of a lyric in my head, that I can then turn it around and turn it into a song. It just, for some reason, for me, it's either right at the same time the melody and the lyrics hit, or the melody comes and then the lyrics follow.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of my process. As to what I'm doing now, it's just crazy with, obviously everyone's world's been turned upside down with the pandemic. I mean, I'm not getting together with my producers that I've worked with in the past because nobody's getting together. So I've had hints of song ideas and I've just pocketed them and just kind of put them aside. I'm an actor too and a writer, so that side of my career has sort of taken over right now, because I can sit down with my computer and write anything, and I don't need anybody else to record it. So that's pretty much, I'm just working on other creative ventures until the coast is clear enough to get back together and collaborate in person. So
Got it. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your answers. It's great.
Yeah.
Erin, your turn, please.
In terms of process, I would definitely say yes, music first. In the instance of this story, I knew that what I needed the music to do, so it kind of started from that. I seem to write when I need something done quickly, and it's just faster to do it myself.
Yeah.
It is. I've had a lot of careers, and one of them was teaching music. I was actually teaching high school music, and I had this women's ensemble that was kind of strangely organized in terms of voice parts and just what I had to work with. A lot of this, not so much of that. So I would simply write and arrange something for them so it was specific to them.
Right.
And so that was it was completely utilitarian. It was just this is a pragmatic solution to this problem.
Right.
In terms of the creative voice and how that comes, I am a screenwriter as well, and so that muse is very finicky. I've named her Bernadette, and Bernadette comes to me in the middle of the night. And she's like, Erin, get up. I'm like, no, Bernadette, God, I'm tired. Let's not. And she's like, I don't repeat to myself, get up. Get your book. I'm like, okay. I could barely read it the next morning. But I'm thankful that whatever it is, a solution to a scene or an idea or a bit of dialogue that I've been playing with. And I love it. I really love those gifts that show up in that way. And it is definitely collaborative between me and her.
So much.
Well, one of the things that people have said to me over the years is, gee, I want to write, or I want to write music, whatever. And it's like, you either have to or don't, because it's hard, and it asks a lot of you. So, do it if you are driven to, where you have a muse slapping you in the middle of the night, or, that's writing or composing or creating. Where, gee, I really want to. That good, but that ain't it. So
Right. When the doorbell rings, you have to answer it.
Exactly.
Because they'll go away. They really will.
Yeah. And you're going, what? Okay, I'm sorry, Toni.
Remind me the question again, please.
Yeah, it's double just what you're working on now, and then you kind of touched on it, but your creative process.
Understood. Yes. Thank you. So actually, I'm about to go back into the studio and work on a new album. I have a new producer has kind of synchronistically fallen into my sort of work, and we're sort of shooting a documentary, kind of a little bit of my story as well as the music making, because I basically go in with nothing. I have some concepts and a bit of a name, and my work again with spirit, just kind of seeing what would happen if I take a studio for a week and just see what comes out. So I'm kind of very also new into the vocal. As I said, I've probably only been doing any of this acting, singing. I mean, I danced for many years when I was younger, but all of this new creative stuff, writing the same for maybe the last year or two. So for me, it's a practice. And I think kind of what you were saying is I've been doing the morning pages, I think about creative process and rituals. I've been writing 3 pages every day since about April this year, almost a year, if not over.
Good.
And, there's times when I do it and it's like 3 in the morning and I'm like, well, and I read it the next day and I have no idea what it was. I think I'm actually writing multiple stories in different sleep states,
Yes.
but I've really made a commitment, and I think that's kind of the same as with my art. I made a commitment to paint. So then I've maybe done about 200-300 paintings. So I've just been cataloging, and I think my last year has been really sort of incubating and creating a body of work in different things. Some days I write, some days, I paint, some days I make music, some days I'm just working on having a bath and making dinner for myself. Like, it's been very kind of gentle. I've also been traveling. I went to Chile for 3 months on a sort of pilgrimage. So I spent December through March traveling solo around the country, just kind of meeting people and making music and,
This was during the
swimming in
pandemic
lakes.
then.
And, beg your pardon?
During the pandemic, you did that?
This December, I left 23rd of December and got back on the 22nd of March this year. So, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
that's fantastic. I'm glad to know someone was able to
Yeah.
fly around.
Right?
Mucho profundo in every way, like crazy. So that, I've just been kind of just letting it flow. And then I think going back to the sort of process, I think sometimes I don't know what I don't know. Like, I listen to both of you and see how you can go play your instruments and make the music. Like, I just have so much respect because I've never known any of those things. So for me, it's like a kid learning and meeting all these people. I'm like, oh, you know how to do that? Okay, cool. What if we did this and this together? So I feel like I'm just a kid playing with all these different people and, making it up as I go along and meeting people and, following my heart. And at the same time, trying to be human in this random world and, bring my own happiness in a way.
Well, what you've that is fabulous. What
Yeah.
you've touched on that I think is very important is that there is some loneliness, if you will, in the creative process where you've got to struggle with whatever, muse or whatever other phrase you want. At the same time, it is a phenomenally collaborative process. You do rely on the live musicians, the producers, the singers, the people who can help bring it to life. Just as, again, it's a film festival, so I'm going to touch on script writing, where you do rely on a director with vision or actors who know how to say the line, no, not like that, type thing, And the thing with creativity, there's very few creative processes where you don't rely on others. Even with novels, people say if you want to write by yourself, write a novel. Well, no, you need your editors and your proofreaders.
Yeah, very true.
The people. So you have to be solitary and garrulous at the same time.
Right.
That can be quite a challenge. It's a skill set.
So true.
And Toni, you in particular, it sounds like you're great at inspiring other people to pick up your pictures, if you will, in your head. You're able to communicate to it so that they can translate it into musical form, which is phenomenal. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for writing incredible music and submitting it to us. I'm so proud that they're official selections. And thank you for taking the time now to show us a little window of the amazing talent you guys have.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share ourselves with you. Really great.
Yes. And it was nice to meet you, ladies, and thank you for all the work that you do to bring it together, because I know these things aren't easy after doing that rounds in my past lives. So thank you very much to everyone.
That's right.
All right. You guys take care. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Connie Lansberg. My song Alone with Bees was the official selection for the Artemis Women in Action Film Festival. It's a mouthful, as all action is.
Exactly. Well, we love having your song as part of our selection. It's fabulous. One of the questions I'll just start off with is that in the title that I looked at, it says Alone with Bees /free. Now, is that...
That's because I sent 2 songs in.
Okay, but Alone with Bees was the official selection. I got it. Thank you. So of course I just put salt in the wound about free. I'm sorry.
No, that hasn't been released yet either, so that's okay. Neither is Alone with Bees. That's all coming out in November. We're doing a launch of that whole album, Alone with Bees. So that's fine. I mean, I was thrilled. I was thrilled to get noticed.
Well, it's a noticeable song. So let's talk a little bit about the song specifically at first, of the history of what inspired you to write it, please.
Well, I am definitely a songwriter. I'm a writer of all things, books. I have a published book. I write screenplays and I write songs, which is all really stories. I write little stories, medium stories, and big stories. So it's all about story. And so, as of course is film, we humans need stories. Alone with Bees came from the idea of all the ideas buzzing around in my head, first of all. They're just endless swarms of ideas. And also it's really a song about making friends with your past. That in the end, if you can heal your past, it yields honey. So that's the story of it.
That's fabulous.
I tend to write in quite a literary style. My songs are not fluffy or repetitive, and using jazz artists to do the music side of it really gives it the depth I'm looking for, the colors I need to surround the story. So it's a really interesting way to write. I always write the words first. I write the story. And then, of course, the music, the colors, they seem to present themselves. But then I work with an amazing Australian pianist, Mark Fitzgibbon, who just seems to be connected straight to me. And he just knows the colors I need. And I think in our 4 or 5 albums we've done together, once I said, nah, that's not going to work. Once.
Wow.
So it's a fantastic collaboration. Look, I'm probably just a country writer. I write little country songs, and then I get these fabulous jazz guys to come in and, reharmonize it and bring the depth, and then the improvisation side of it that I just love. So even though I sing jazz and I build as a jazz artist, I'm probably really just a country artist who uses jazz musicians.
Well, what inspired that?
Well, I hadn't really thought of singing. I mean, it's in my family. We all sing, and I was an actress, and I have done musicals, but it never occurred to me. But I had always written songs, and I kind of thought, oh, I'm not sure if I sing that well, but since nobody's ever heard the song, maybe I'll get away with it. But sort of that brought up a passion in me. It's so immediate, like you get the job and you do it, and you are you have to be you, which I found very confronting, but also very liberating. So I went to singing lessons, and I thought, right, we're going to do this. Let's learn how to do this. And the singing teacher said, "Oh, you're a jazz artist." I said, I don't know anything about jazz. He said, no, you're a jazz artist. I said, why? He said, you cannot sing on the beat. I thought, oh, okay. So he gave me some jazz songs, and all of a sudden, the world just opened up, because the thing was pristine stories. Just the most genius of stories with the most beautiful of melodies. And I thought, this is it. Of course, it was a huge learning curve to work with people who had gone through full colleges and schools, because they're everywhere here in Australia. So you've got people that are educated to the hilt, and then I trundle in, start get gigs, and it's like, who the hell are you? And so it was a struggle, but it really gave me a depth of knowledge I needed that then really influenced my songwriting, because then you think, right, I want to write a song that these guys are interested in playing and that they can solo over, and it excites them. So it really just got deeper and deeper, and the better the guys that I played with, the more I wanted to write really interesting things, and I have no care in the world about being commercial. I just don't. I just don't care. Because the thing is, we've got a really fabulous live scene here in Melbourne, so I get to work a lot. Mind you, COVID destroyed it, but I had my first live gig last week, and I cried. I cried in front of the audience. I was like, "Oh, thank God we're back!"
Oh,
so
that's
yeah.
I find one of the things, you've already kind of jumped into the process of writing and composing, but one of the things that I'm hoping people who don't know the creative process, we have interviews with script writers and with the songwriters. So I want to touch on the idea that a lot of people think that you write a song and that's what they hear. But the transition from in your head to onto paper or onto the keyboard, however you get it out into the world, but then when it is interpreted by producers, musicians, and everything else, it becomes a whole different thing. Do you find that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. The joy is that they always turn out way better than I ever expected because I use fantastic musicians and we're very collaborative. So I simply bring the bones in. Look, read Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. I have the muse. It just comes in. I hardly even remember writing anything, to tell you the truth. Yes. No, scripts. No, I remember writing scripts because that's the hardest thing there is in the world. Yeah. Scripts are harder than books. Yes. And they're way harder than songs. So I find when I'm writing my books, I'll look back and think, did I write that? Oh, my God. And then when I write songs, I don't remember. I do not remember writing them. I have who's ever on the other side of the curtain is prolific. Yeah. so I just write them. Now, when you put a rhythm into it, and often there are times when we've changed things from a 4/4 to a 3/4, and all of a sudden that was it. That made the song. So I'm obviously got a rhythm in my head when I'm writing, but when you put it to actual music and an actual beat, words do have to be shuffled around or changed. But I rarely spend more than a couple of hours on a song. I hate to say that, but it's true. No. Because then that's just how it is. I know the song is there when it comes in. I don't struggle with songs. If I'm doing something, the first few lines, and I don't know what the story is, I just put it aside. There is one song I kept for years because I only had the chorus and I didn't know what the story was, but the chorus in Everything I Believe, which is out on Sears Gift, out on Amazon, everywhere. You can hear it on Bandcamp. Everything I Believe was like my big Disney song, and it goes with the album that goes with my book, The Perfect Tear. So anybody who buys The Perfect Tear can get the album for free, that kind of thing. And I had this story, and it was so good. Now I'm standing here before you, and I can hardly breathe, and you're nothing I imagined, but everything I believe. Now, I knew that was my big Disney hit, and I don't normally write like that. But then after I wrote the book, it was like, I know what the story is. And it related to my heroine. So then I wrote the song. And that is about the only song I've ever kept for that long, not knowing what the story was. Right. So then what I do, I bring in the bones, I do the chords, I write the music. And then, of course, I know that Mark is going to reharmonize everything into chords I've never heard of. And give it the depth and often the darkness that I want to couch these very whimsical, light stories in, because the ideas behind the stories are deep. Right. But the conscious mind is being held by the story, but there's energy things going on underneath. Sure. Big time energy things going on underneath. So it's, for me, what really kicked this off was finding Mark Fitzgibbon. We have a connection that I've just never had with anybody, in that he simply knows. He knows the hooks. He knows what goes where.
Wow.
It's quite amazing. It is. I'm very, very lucky. And so then I take it into the band, and I never tell them what to do. I mean, they're artists. I just want to see what's going to happen. And usually Along with Bees. Okay, Ben Hanlon, he's a member, he's the double bass player on it, and it's got that big, gorgeous bass solo.
Beautiful, yeah.
And he's with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and yet a great jazz player. Yeah. I mean, these are the kind of people I get to work with here, and it's quite astounding. And I just pinch myself because I think, where else in the world would I get so close to people so brilliant? And so it's fantastic. They're fantastic. So we just go in, we do it, and we record it. And we might have one rehearsal, boom, in the studio. Mark leads the way. We produce it ourselves with the engineer, and we're done.
Well, that's awesome.
That's it.
And with a spectacular result.
Yes.
Well, thank you very, very much for your time. And thanks for being part of Artemis.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It was a thrill.
Likewise.